Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Making a Tower Defense game. Last episode we created turrets that shoot, so in this episode we're going to be creating enemies that run towards the turret in locomotion and try to beat it and destroy it and deal damage to it and receive damage from it. Yeah, let's get started. I got this model from Mixamo, which is just a simple model. We're gonna unpack it here and I'm gonna rename it to basic enemy. And the first thing we're gonna need to do is add an animator to it, which will handle all of our animations. And next we're gonna be adding the nav mesh agent, which is Unity's AI navigation. And make sure to click install AI navigation package if you see the button here. It shouldn't take that long. Okay, next let's actually create the enemy script, which we're going to be calling the enemy controller. This will be handling all of the enemy logic, and we're going to be adding another script which we're going to be called an enemy locomotion, which will handle all of the animation. Yeah, let's start coding. So in the locomotion, always whenever you're using the AI, make sure that you're using the Unity engine.ai namespace at the top. Yeah, and then we're going to be creating the nav mesh agents agent reference, and we're going to be fetching it here at the start. Okay, next we're going to be setting the destination of the agent towards the temporary target we're going to be creating. This is just to start testing the agent and it's working properly. So just do agent destination equals target.transform the position, and that should get the trick done. Which currently, if you run the game, you'll notice that nothing happens, and yeah, you get an error. And even if you do feed it the target, it will still give you this error. So the problem is that Unity changed their AI navigation system, and there's a new way to actually bake onto the floor to make sure that the agents can walk on it. And you just have to click on your terrain and add a nav mesh surface and click bake, and then you'll see that it bakes properly. And then the units, when you do run and assign the target, should actually start walking towards the target like that. And this is the basis of what we're going to be developing, but you can see that they head towards the target, and when the target updates, they update to and keep going towards it. And right now it looks very creepy, as you know, most AIs usually start off. So it works. Okay, next, just make sure you set the tag of the enemy to enemy, because that's the what we set the AI of the turret to target. So now we're gonna feed the target to the turret, and you'll see that the enemy will start heading towards the turret, and the turret will start shooting back because it has the tag on it. But you can see now that the turret's actually aiming at the feet of the enemy. Don't worry about that, we're gonna fix that later. But for now, it's working fine. And you can see that the turret actually works perfectly. That when the target, as soon as he enters the area, it starts shooting at him, which is exactly how we designed it to be. Okay, next create an animation controller here, and I'm just gonna call it basic enemy controller. And you can feed it directly into your animator over here, which is on your basic enemy. And then double click it to open it up. And we're going to be creating a blend tree that will be holding our 3 animations in it. So just double click the blend tree and click on parameters on the left side, and add in, just change this parameter's name into speed, and that will be our main parameter that we're going to change into or blend into the 3 animations that we're going to have. So add 3 fields on the right side. Alright, so next, just make sure you have your animations with you. I downloaded all of my animations from Mixamo. I'm gonna just drag them here into my animation file, and then just feed the run, the fast run or sprint, and the idle into here. All you need is 3. Any more you can do, but 3 I find to be the sweet spot. And next, let's just actually start triggering the animation. So in your code, create a new animator object and fetch it here in the start. And then in the update, we can just update the speed value to start seeing some animations. And as you can see, he sprints. He's a little goofy with it, but some animation is playing. So the problem with this is we don't have loop time enabled, so he just stops at the end of the animation. So just make sure you enable all 3 of the loop times or however animations you have. But now you can see that he is looping, but he is more bugged now. So just make sure that whenever you're downloading the animation, you have in place ticked before you download it, and that should fix the problem. This took me a while to figure out, but yeah. And then make sure that you set the new animations back into it. And make sure you don't forget to enable the time swap. And now when we run, it should work perfectly. And indeed it does. This animation I actually didn't like, and I did change later, but I didn't include the footage. So you'll see that the animation changes and looks better later. I just downloaded a different one. Okay, and let's change the angular speed and acceleration. I find that 700 and about 45 look really good. So now if we run it, you can see that he runs so much better, and it looks actually kind of terrifying the way he runs. So yeah, and I also changed the speed to 8. Make sure that you do that and include it in your animator to include that too. Alright, and here we change the stopping distance to 3, and you can see that he stops a bit away from the target where he is supposed to, which is perfect. That's what we need, and that's what we're gonna work on later to start attacking. So let's actually start fetching the controller and start working on making the enemy attacks. First of all, we want the enemy to be always facing us whenever we are within attack range. So let's create this face target method and only activate it when the enemy or the target of the enemy is within range of the stopping distance, which is where he's going to start attacking. So just do distance to target is less than or equal to agent stopping distance, and then we face the target then. And the distance to target is a very simple vector 3.distance that just checks the distance between the enemy and its target. Don't forget to add a null reference over here to make sure that the target isn't null. Okay, let's start working on the face target. Face target is actually super simple. All we have to do is get the direction between the enemy and its target, and then make it face the target. Super simple. So the way to get the direction is to subtract the target's position from our own position, or the other way around, sorry. And then we can normalize that direction, and then we can just do a simple quaternion lerp to look at it. So let's create a new rotation one, which we're going to be calling look rotation. And quaternion actually has its own method, which is called look rotation. And then give it the direction, which we would want the direction without the y, so we don't look up and down. So just feed it direction x, 0, and direction z, no y. I wrote y and I'm going to figure that one out later. So then you can just do transform.rotation equals quaternion.lerp and just feed it in there. And we're going to add a new variable, which we're going to be calling turn speed, and turn speed will just basically control how fast it turns towards its end. Which we're just setting at 7.5. There, now it should work really well, so let's have a look. Make sure to feed in the capsule to be the target. And you can see it's not quite facing it correctly. And the reason that is because I actually forgot that I left it as Y and I needed to swap it back to Z. So your behavior is weird like that, just make sure you change the quaternion look rotation in line 30 to match it correctly, which is direction.z and not direction.y. You can see here when I figured it out, I had a small frustration because such a simple one that caused such a headache. Now you can see that it looks at it perfectly when it's within the range, and when you take the target away from it, it's gonna start heading towards it. Perfect. So just adjust your stopping distance to the desired one. I find 1.75 to be really good. You can see here I kept testing it until I found the number. 1.75 is good for me. Something else might be good for you. Just keep playing with it and see what number you're happy with. Okay, now let's actually start working on the enemy controller itself. Let's create a boolean here, which we're gonna be calling within attack range, which is gonna be set by the enemy locomotion whenever it is within range, and then we're gonna handle the logic on enemy controller side. Okay, let's create a new function here, which we're going to be calling attack animation, and this is when the enemy is within the range of the target, it starts attacking, and we're just going to easily create it by using triggers. So we're going to set trigger, which we called slash, and then restart the trigger every time we call this method. So if it's on, it turns off, and then we can turn it on back. And then the enemy controller, we can create a time between attacks, and the time between attacks will basically be how often the enemy attacks, which we set once every 2 seconds. So that just allows the animation to play and behave correctly. We're going to create an attack cooldown, which will basically be the timer resetting itself. So in update, we can just do if attack cooldown is less than or equal to 0, and we are within attack range. Then we can call the attack function in the enemy locomotion that we've created earlier. Let's first set the enemy locomotion and actually retrieve it. Oh, and don't forget to actually set it to public. I forgot to set it to public, that's why it didn't show up. But there you go. Now it works. An attack cooldown we're going to be setting to the time between attacks every time it does happen. And then we can also check afterwards if the attack cooldown is more than 0, then we just keep subtracting time to tell the time from it. And I forgot to show this, but in the animator, I just typed in the slash animation and created the slash parameter here, which is a trigger, called it slash with a capital S, just like in our code. And then in the slash animation, I have a blend tree going through it with condition of slash as a trigger, and I disabled has exit time. And then with it going back, we do have exit time and there are no conditions. So it will go from blend tree to the slash, and then when it finishes animation, immediately go back, which is how we want it to work. Okay, now if you run the game, you can see this animation and everything working as intended. Actually, there was one more thing that we need to set. We forgot to set the enemy controller. We forgot to initialize it. So just make sure in your start to initialize enemy controller, and now it should work properly. You can see it runs up to it, and when it gets up to it, it starts smacking it, which is how we want it to work. I'm just gonna set the float to be public so you can see the timer going down. You can see that as soon as it hits 0, it hits. So if I set the time to 5, you can see that he will be standing for a bit before he smacks, and then he's gonna smack as soon as it hits 0, which is perfect. Just fix up the distance, and you can see this as well. If I do push him back while his attack cooldown is going down, even if he's far away and attack cooldown reaches 0, he's not gonna attack. As long as he's not in range, he would never attack the target, which is exactly how we want it to work. Okay, I'm just gonna be removing the target now. I'm gonna actually move most of the logic onto the enemy controller. So we're gonna do a set target over here, and we're gonna just have it set the target here, and we're gonna be fetching the target from the enemy controller. This will unify everything to the enemy controller and leave only the animation over into the side. And also we're gonna be needing a method to nullify this target as well. So we're gonna be doing public void nullify target, which just sets the target to null. Okay, I'm back to the enemy controller. Now let's actually start doing the logic of the attack checking. So let's click on attack check method. And then let's just move this data into it. Let's add a stats component. This stats will be unified amongst every single entity in our game, and it's going to be super simple. All it's going to do is have the health and damage and some other variables that we're going to add later, but it's a script that will be shared by every single living entity in the game, or anything that can be destroyed or do damage. So we're just going to be setting the health for now, and then later we're going to be setting up the damage and some other stuff. I'm gonna set this enemy's health to 100, but actually let's unify it so everyone starts off with 100 as the base health. Okay, let's give this capsule as well a stats, which is gonna be 100. I'm also gonna be creating a way for it to die, which right now it's just to destroy the object if the health reaches 0 or under. And then here in the attack check, we can actually start dealing damage to said object when we are within range and we are attacking. So let's just add a damage variable as well in our stats, which we're going to be setting to 20. Okay, we can create a new target game object, which is going to be set to our target. And down here, let's create a stats target stats object, which we're going to be fetching the target's stats, and create our stats as well, which is going to be the my stats at the top. And let's not forget to fetch it. And again, stats just holds our information, which is global. Okay, now we can do that target.getComponent stats to get its stats, and then we can check if it's non-null, then we just subtract our damage from its health. Okay, let's test this. Let's give our turret the actual stats as well, so that we can have the enemy attack our turret. And let's add our turret to... Actually, first of all, let's add the camera to the enemy so we can see him in the bottom right at all times. Okay, just adjusting. Tiny bit. Yeah, that's perfect. I should get a bit closer. Okay. Okay. Now we can run and we can feed the enemy the turret as the target. And then he should start. Oh, actually, we completely forgot to do the set target. So in update here, just add a line that calls the locomotion script and calls the set target, and we feed it the target. And also don't forget to check if target is not opt. There you go. Oh, also in the attack check, just make sure that the target isn't null, so that it doesn't keep attacking the turret after it's dead. Okay, let's check. And feed it the turret. There you go. It's on him. As you can see, it's attacking it, and after 5 hits, it's dead. There you go. It works. Okay, so next we need to have the bullets first of all aim at the center of the enemy. So over here, just change the aim at to be a new vector 3 in the middle of the target's position on X and the position on Y, and then just add 1 to it, and the position on Z. You should do the target's position here and not your own transform position, which you're gonna see it's failing for me, and then I realized the mistake later and I'll fix it as well. You can see the turret acting very weird. So that's because I did transform position, so you have to do target, or in this case current target transform position. Yeah, now it should aim at the center of the enemy. Let's check it out. There we go. That's much better. It's aiming at the middle of the enemy. Okay, now let's actually make it deal damage to the enemy itself. So in the turret projectile module, add the my stats again, and we can just fetch it in awake. And in the handle bullet collision, you can just create this simple line which fetches and deals damage to the enemy that we're targeting. And we're creating this new take damage function. So go back to stats and just create a new function there, which makes sure it's public, and call it take damage with the parameter of damage, and that way you can just do health minus equals damage. And it's so much better to do it this way, so you can have some null checks. And as you can see, the error should go away. There you go. And just to unify it and have like one global way to do it, let's fix it over here. Line 36, if I can actually find it. There we go. here I do write something to check for the nullifying, but this is actually a very horrible way of doing it, which I'm gonna fix later. And then we do actually use the new method for subtracting or dealing damage, I suppose. Okay, let's see if this works. Now the bot should be attacking the turret, but the turret should kill it before it's able to. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's not working actually because the bot doesn't actually have a collider on it. So it's shooting, but it's not actually doing anything. So the enemy doesn't actually have a collider, so the bullets do shoot, but they just go through him and it doesn't actually register. So let's click on our enemy and add a capsule collider to it, which is just by clicking add component, add capsule collider. And you can click here on this little thing, and you can just kind of drag to make it the same height as your enemy, which is what I did. It was a small circle kind of like this. So I just grabbed it, moved it up to fit the enemy perfect for a second. And when you run this, the enemy should run to the turret and actually die from it. But I forgot to get footage of this, so I could show you right here. First we hit the turret. And you can see the enemy starts running towards it and dies. Just like that. Which is exactly the way we want it to work. And as you saw, he started swinging at the start before he was supposed to, like before he got close enough to deal damage. And the reason of that being is that he has his target as null here. So if you just set the target to the turret, it should be working properly. So just make sure this is set to the turret. And then when you do run it, he shouldn't be attacking unless he's close enough. Yeah. There you go. And he just dies from the turret because the turret is too powerful. There you go. It works. Okay, now let's have a bit more fun. I'm gonna be copying and pasting this enemy multiple times, trying to see how many I can make before they swarm or overpower the turret itself. So I think 5 is good. Actually, let's make 6. 6 is fine. Okay, and the turret won't stand a chance if we do it like this, so let's increase the fire rate a little bit and its damage a tiny bit as well. And let's make it snap faster to the enemy. There you go. Now let's test it. They're all running, so it's shooting them down. And yeah, that was no match for the turret. Anyways, yeah, so it's working amazingly. So let's add some more target, let's have some more fun with this. Yeah, no way the turret handles this much. Actually, let's give it some more fire rate. Let's add 1 more to it. So it's 4 bullets a second. Let's see. Yeah, it didn't stand a chance. Okay, now even after they killed it, they just keep sprinting. So let's try to tackle this behavior. So a quick temporary fix here is just to move this logic outside. So we can create a new method and we'll just call it check if target is valid. Okay. And let's create a new method down here. And paste the code. And then we'll just check if the target is null. And if it is null, then we just nullify the target and set the new locomotion target to be the game object itself. So basically, we set it to be the enemy. So the new target is himself, and that will be just set once. So we should create this cool and unique way of signaling that everyone is dead by all of them just staring to the right. I think it would be right. So all of them will be staring in one direction. So just set it to game object. There, now it's tested. There you go. That's what they're gonna do, all stare at one in one direction when all targets are dead. So let's try. Yep, that looks creepy, and that's kind of the intended look I'm going for. Alright, and that's it, we're done. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I tried to go as detailed as possible, and I'm really happy with the outcome. So stay tuned for the next episode, and again, thank you so much for watching. Any feedback would be appreciated, and Discord's also in the description if you have any questions, so is the code. See ya!